The title here is 39-year-old millionaire who rents. Why I'm so much happier not being a homeowner. So let's go over a couple of things that came from this interview with this gal. There are some things that are very unique to her situation and circumstances financially. But I know that we are hearing a lot more of this just culturally and generationally from younger people that, you know what, I don't want the responsibility of owning, or maybe I owned and I'm okay renting for the rest of my life because I have other things like freedom and flexibility and I can call someone when this thing breaks or whatever, So let's dig into this one a little bit.
And nothing wrong with that, right? Like, not everybody's made to be a homeowner. Not everybody wants all the maintenance and all that stuff that goes into it.
Well, in some states, half the people are renters. Like we were talking about the other day, like the percentage of homeownership is higher in Midwest than it is on some of the coastal areas, higher cost areas like California, New York, and Florida, and that Hawaii and all that. But it's like, okay, there's her version of this, and then there's everyone else's version.
And not to deviate from this topic, but I mean, we saw that new builders are actually building a lot of multi-unit for trying to make it like a renter's nation. So
and that's a response to demand and what people are doing with building an ADU. Fine, then we're going to just build you 2 units on one or 3 units on one. Yeah. And the cultural change and the shift of people from a investment perspective of real estate, not just buying it to live in it.
Yeah. So also, I mean, on the other side, culture, like I feel that after 2020, I was telling William, a lot of the habits change in how people wanted to do life, buy things, experience, throughout what they wanted to do. So I think that also plays a big part in future goals and what they want to do as far as, ownership.
So this person that they're featuring in this article, she's saying growing up in New York as the 8th of 9 kids, first of all.
That was a lot of kids.
Wow. Immigrant parents. And then in 2013 bought her first home. Now, this first home was in Charlotte, North Carolina for $101,000. And she had a 10-year mortgage. So I did the math.
Oh, so did I.
Yeah.
No. What percentage rate? Oh, a great preparation, Brian. What percentage rate did you use?
I used 4% because I looked up average mortgage rate in 2013.
Excellent. Yeah. I went super high. So at 4%, $101,000, 10-year, what was the monthly payment?
So I put 20% down.
Okay.
For down payment, a 4% rate, $973 on a 10-year term, which is 120 months.
Woo! Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So $973.
$973.
And then, but then I did the inverse, and if you would have done 30, it would have been like $500 a month.
Wow.
Now here's the thing: I did the conservative route. I took a higher interest rate with no money down. I just leveraged the entire thing. So I did $101,000 total loan, even though it wasn't a 100% loan.
Yeah.
And I did 6%. That payment was still only $1,121 a month.
Wow.
So $1,121.
Where do I find that?
So in 2013.
In 2013 and in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever seen that video where it's a guy taking an order? He's like, taking a client. Yeah, where did you want a house? Okay, for that much? Okay, great. So if you're going to want this house, Janet, you're going to have to go back to the 1960s.
Yeah.
So in this example, you see the evidence here in this demonstration. And again, we're going to get to more of the details here, but this is how people could start their real estate ownership and build portfolio and have a place. Was at $101,000. 11 years ago now in North Carolina, and under $1,000 monthly payment in his scenario, or just over $1,100 in the one I'm talking about. Yeah. Comparatively, by the way, sorry, this was a single-family residence with 2 bedrooms and just about 1,500 square feet. Now, if you want that same apartment right now in San Diego, it's $3,000 or $3,500,
depending
or
where.
$4,000, right? So you're talking a multiple of like 3 times the equivalent here in San Diego. But this is how most people started, and historically have started by buying their starter home. I'm using the word right now. It's their starter home, and this does not exist anymore. We are so far from this. I want to say somewhere else in here, they're talking about like the median house price now is $367,000, something like that. So I understand this. And from that point, she has bought and sold, her and her husband have bought and sold multiple homes and paid off $300,000 of debt and made her first $1 million. Ding, ding, ding. There you go. So she made $1 million in business. But this represents a new attitude towards shelter and how people look at shelter. And I think that is why I wanted to talk about this one is, like, do you think that the 2020 you're mentioning earlier, like, do you think that was the catalyst for all this? Or do you think that some of this was already happening earlier and then 2020 was like fuel on the fire, like gasoline?
Yeah, I feel that a lot of people were already looking for a way or trying to find some sort of code to break into, like, to get the freedom. But 2020, unfortunately, was, a tale of two evils. And one of them was, hey, like, bad, everyone's dying out in the streets. But at the same time, a lot of people found out that, hey, I don't need to be at an office to work. Hey, I don't need to always see people face to face. And also, look at all this freedom I now have, you know, like, oh, I could go do this. I don't have to be tied down to a location where I'm at all the time. So I feel that really was, you know, the nail in the head that really just put everything, you know, in pace for people to be like, yeah, now I want to reevaluate the way that I, you know, live and do life.
Because that's what it was, right? She bought 3 properties in the 10-year span, sold them all, and became a millionaire with that, which she used the stepping stone of real estate to get into and build a little small portfolio and just make nice income out of it, which is great.
And that's one thing that they, you know, kind of failed to highlight, the fact that that was her vehicle that she rode to get to the $1 million, to get to the freedom, to then not be a homeowner, to then be able to use that money to invest, you know, however the heck she wants it. In this case, her business, her lifestyle, and whatever she wants to do.
She is into paying off debt. That's what she's all about. That's her career.
Finance coach or something.
I mean, she went buying this property in 2013 and saying by 2019, I was a proud homeowner with a paid off mortgage. That's pretty darn good.
Yeah, when you have a $1,100 payment in North Carolina.
Now, to your previous point, you know, that was kind of a page out of the old blueprint, right?
Yeah.
You know, we've talked about this on previous shows where you're like, hey, yeah, that's cool. That was the old blueprint. That was like the boomer blueprint. Like, buy the house, keep it, stay in it, and pay it off.
Yeah.
This is a little bit different, of course, where it's like, you know, you're buying the house super cheap. It's your starter home, short-term mortgage, low monthly payment, pay it off, and now you're young and you have your house paid free and clear, and still got rid of it.
Yeah.
Now, the exchange here that is represented, or that's referenced in the article, is that, and she says this, I feel like my space is more manageable.
Yeah.
It's a little smaller place that she's renting, a 2-bedroom apartment in Charlotte still, at $2,553.
Yeah.
Which is more than double the cost that both of him and I came up in our little scenario of looking what the mortgage payment would be. Double the cost, of course, 11 years later.
Yeah.
But for a space that's representatively about the same, 2 bedrooms, and 1,200 square feet for the apartment now versus 1,496 of the house before.
Yeah.
So not much of a change, and I guess maybe given the fact that she's achieved millions and, you know, has her own business, maybe the difference between $1,100 or $1,000 a month and $2,500 is like, whatever, who cares?
No, correct. I mean, having renting versus buying has a lot of pros and cons to it, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, when you rent, you could go on a month to month. When you're owning, it's just something that's going to be fixed for a long time. It will provide that stability, you know, and so and fixed payments. Unlike when you're renting month to month, maybe the landlord may want to sell, and rents do increase. You know, we're also talking about lower upfront costs when you're going into renting versus we already know we have to pay a down payment, closing cost,
new
right?
furniture, you know, things you got to do, little repairs, DIYs.
And then a lot of people are like, well, what about the maintenance that goes into it, right? I'm going to have this maintenance when I rent. I have none. I don't have to worry about being like that landlord / homeowner.
Boom, pipe breaks. Who do you call? You're gonna have to.
Well, that's what. I mean, even here, it's like there's this peace of mind. Like she literally says, we now outsource maintenance and headaches to our property manager, and our emergency fund covers closer to 5 months instead of 3, and we sleep better at night. Yeah. That to me means peace of mind, and someone else can do it.
Yeah. And that's what I was gonna say though as well. That the way that they have built their life is around what the clarity of what they already envisioned. So for them, this is what makes sense for them, in their life plans. But somebody else might have a different situation. So
no, exactly. I mean, here it is. The decision to rent or buy should be based on the experience of your lifestyle. Yeah. Your mobility. Do I want to be near in downtown, or if I have 5 kids like myself, I have too many of them, maybe the downtown life, it's not going to be not right now, maybe later. And so maybe in time I'll decide, hey, let me just get rid of this and have less maintenance, etc. And so maybe I will go rent.
Hey, let me get rid of the kids and just go downtown.
Well, and it gets interesting because you kind of fold that same kind of concept into how, they reference here, her and her husband, they felt isolated living in the suburbs during shutdown, and it made them realize how much more they wanted a walkable environment. Now that dovetails right into the next thing, which was about before landing the current apartment they have now, they were trying to get back in the market. So there is an attempt to get back in, and they put in a cash offer that was highly competitive for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo without any amenities that they wanted, and they still didn't get it. So they ended up not getting what they wanted even when they made an attempt, and now they are in a situation where because they, let's say, went with renting, they have the amenities they want and the ability to walk around and do the things that they want to do in that way. And it's a complete shift. It's a complete shift of perspective. Yeah. And then, they're investing more in their future. So investing in high yield savings accounts and CDs, having passive income, and then covering the roughly $2,500 a month expenses that the rent incurs.
Yeah.
So basically, she's like net flowing what we're talking about all the time with ADUs or people putting money over here to pay off that over there, or when you buy a house here in San Diego and then you get PCS somewhere else as an active duty military, you keep your house here, and the person that's got the BAH that pays for your mortgage, like they're doing the thing we talk about all the time.
Exactly. I mean, for me myself, since I've had the experience of actually renting and owning, I'd rather own. Right? I like the stability side of it, where my kids already know what schools are going to go, where the community they're going to build in, and I'm okay with that. And I'm also okay if you're renting, right? In this case, there was no mention of kids. The situation may be very different, where they like to go just have wine and have things accessible. So I'm good with either way.
Yeah. And one thing she mentioned, she's like, I'm glad we didn't settle for something we didn't like as much just to say we're homeowners. And previously we were saying like, hey, that's the new brag. But then it comes out that it really just matters what you want in life and what's going to drive you and make you happy. So in this case, maybe that wasn't the brag that they were looking for. The freedom is.
I still think that rings true because, you're referencing a couple shows ago and we talked about his homeownership, the newest humble brag. And that was a great question. And for some people that they're put off by the whole, I'm a homeowner, fine, that's fine, be put off by that. But people who are looking for, let's say, a partner in their life that is a homeowner and also shares that same value, I think this comes to values.
Oh, of course.
So this 100%. And that's why I picked this one for this week. You'd submit it to me and you're like, hey, like I got a good article. I was like, dude, let's do this one first. Because this does address that like change in the shift in the tide of how people are looking at real estate when they're in these 20s and 30s.
Exactly, because if you read the article, I mean, isn't she bragging?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is this the new humble brag? Cash flow, and I got freedom and flexibility.
That's what I'm saying. Her
more money in my CDs, more money to invest into,
Her brag was my freedom, my ability to do whatever I want whenever I want. Like, you can still do that if you have a house, but her situation just made that, hey, this is what works for me right now. And I think that's great because she's like, I can invest more in myself and in my future.
Exactly.
And I feel if you're taking it from that approach and you're still investing what you would already be putting down somewhere else, but you're, like you said, moving the money around, putting it over there. If you're still moving the ball down the line, progressing in your life, you're building, then does it really matter how you get to the freedom that you want?
No. I mean, very valid. I get to invest more in my retirement. I have my fund for, vacationing. It's all good. It's a good brag.
Yeah. In this situation, their seed money that they parked in investment returns is paying for the expense of living in the apartment. So yeah, it could be paying the expense of living in the apartment or living it into a condo or something else they own. But the bottom line is that their cash to pay for it is coming from somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's coming from that strategic approach of putting the money in all these other various places that generate these returns that they need to cover it all.
And also, we don't know what sacrifices or, what situations they were in when they owned those other houses. What they also bought 3 houses that helped them propel to where they're at right now. So that's also a huge catalyst that helped them get to where they're at.
There's a lot to like pull from this just because we know we're in situations like this with people, so we know that means this, that means that. And so the other thing I want to make sure I highlight to everybody is in this article is that this is a process. This goes back to my point of like this isn't an overnight thing. This references her first purchase of 2013, which is now 11 years ago. So you can look at this and go, isn't that good for her? Overnight success. No, there's no overnight in 11 years of work and paying things off and doing the deeds, right?
Yeah,
So, just a cautionary reminder, like the work is required still.
And she talked about that, right? Like I was a property manager. It's like I had to have another fund for repairs, etc.
Yep.
But what I did like is she says I want to be clear that I don't think it's a poor decision to own a home.
Yeah.
And it isn't financially fully to rent, if that's what you feel is the right thing, right? And so at the end, she says, I'm happy where I am.
Yeah. And
that's all that matters.
I read the book recently, and it's called 10X is Better Than 2X. It's not a Grant Cardone book. It's called 10X is Better Than 2X. But the concept is like you can want what you want, and you don't have to explain yourself to anybody.
Exactly.
If you just want to do your life that way, go do it. That's fine.
Yeah.
You don't owe me an explanation. You don't owe any of us an explanation. If that's what you want to have a blue shirt versus a purple shirt, fine, go get a blue shirt. Like no one cares.
Yeah.
Just go get it. And if you want to live your life this way, and she has the let's say financial success and fortitude to be able to do that,
no, absolutely.
Congratulations, actually.
An example I like to use is like my sister. My sister has a heck of a great payment where she's at for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Renting from a landlord that's been very good to her.
Yeah.
And so she's like, well, I don't own a home. And I'm like, sometimes it's overrated. Look how much more you're able to do from paying your $1,500 versus now for a 3-bedroom, it's like $4,000.
$4,000.
You know, how much more is that going to take? Yeah, you'll build it, you know, you'll have tax benefits, you'll have some things, but you know what? She also has the benefits right now that you could pour more into your retirement, or you can do more of those things you want with your younger daughter.
Well, because that money would be going to debt servicing.
That's correct.
If it weren't going towards.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with it. Everybody, you know, has their own way of dealing with things.
I agree.
So
I agree.
Don't overrate it.
This was a real good one, Brian. Brian, thank you. Good find on that. You're not even 39 yet, and you're like, hey, check us out, 39-year-old millionaire.
Shoot.
But hey,
10 more years.
That's good forecasting for you, isn't it?
10 more years. 10 more
Brian,
years.
Brian will be 39 millionaire in a couple of years. So.